Good morning. Welcome to the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show, brought to you by Capital Mortgage Funding. We've got an unbelievable show. I'm Harvey Freed. He's Harry Glanz.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Harvey. Good morning, Becky. Good morning, Cooper Glass Homes, Max, Brooke, and their crew in the house. Listen, very excited about this show. They sell a lot of houses. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the market. We're going to talk about everything that's going on. It's exciting. And it's not about interest rates. It's just not, and we're going to go over that this morning.
I'll do the formal introduction. First, Becky Alley, of course, from our office. Becky's top 1% of all originators in the U.S., the United States of America. Wow. And, of course, Lori Glass and Dana Cooper, Cooper Glass Homes. You guys rule Max Brook office, but you do everywhere in Southeast Michigan. You guys have been hustling for a lot of years. Top agents across Southeast Michigan. All right, guys, it's your hour. We're going to be jamming it up with all sorts of great news on what's going on in the market.
So excited to be here. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, Super Bowl weekend. We have super agents in. So what are the things that we know? And Harry's got half his family's trying to buy in your own hometown in Huntington Woods.
My neighbor.
Yeah, for like the negative, the 0.1 house that's on the market.
Right. So it's kind of funny because you go on the listings and you go there and you say, well, how many homes for sale? Let me stress this point. Okay, they sell houses all over, but they really specialize in Huntington Woods and Berkeley and surrounding area, Woodward Corridor. And in Huntington Woods specifically, there might be at any one given point in time 1, 2, or 3 homes on the market there. And the reason is it's a desirable area, much like a lot of areas in metropolitan Detroit, very good schools, desirable area. It's been that way for a very, very long time. But the thing is that Cooper Glass, that's what they are. They're Cooper Glass. It's their brand, but they work hard. Harvey and Becky. They work like, Becky's hair's on fire all the time.
Yeah, like the Elmo's meme where he's like looking up into the sky and it's burning all around him.
They are, and I'm going to tell you this, and Lori and Dana and I have had conversations. Lori will call me at 9:30 at night, 9:45, 10 o'clock. It's just what we do. And when you have had transactions over the last, they haven't been in it for 34 years, but when you've had transactions with people over a long period of time, you know what the deal is, they know what the deal is, and it makes the transaction a lot easier. So when, you have people that are buying in a certain area, you refer them to certain agents because that's the agent's specialty. It's we'll go back to old school term, their farm area, right? You farm that area.
Yes.
You guys know, and Becky will tell you this because she knows in her area, you guys know every owner of every house in that area. You
Pretty
do.
much.
You do.
You would think so.
But how long? Let's tell everybody
close.
how long it didn't. You didn't become a success overnight. It took how many years? And what did you guys do?
Well, Dana and I were competitors in Huntington Woods. I grew up in Huntington Woods. My mom's still there. Shout out to my mom, 96 last week. Still lives in the house I grew up
Snaps
in.
for that.
Pretty good, right?
She looks like she's 80.
She's amazing.
Acts like she's 80.
She lives in the Colonial, laundry in the basement, the whole thing. But so between, friends, babysitting, then my kids growing up there, their play dates, right? And then being in real estate, we've been inside a lot of houses.
Yeah.
So, listen, we sell up to 30 cities a year. We've got a great one coming in Bloomfield, $2.3 million. But
I've got a buyer for that.
Okay, great.
There you go. Does it have a pool? They need a pool.
You can build one.
There's room for a pool. We're in. All right,
there
good enough.
is. We're in. Let's talk. But we love our woods. We love our neighborhood. We love our neighbors. They're so good to us, friends, family, clients. We just love them. I mean, it's a great hood.
You built a great referral network. I mean, over all these years, and that's what it is. You're looking at. We're looking at hundreds of years' experience sitting in this room, talking to people on the radio and just giving great advice. So this is advice that we give to our own family that we give. And nobody's really a stranger. When you meet somebody and you talk to somebody, Becky, they become part of what you are, your persona. You have to give great advice, don't you?
You have to. I feel like it's our fiduciary duty to be transparent. And, I feel like clarity is kindness sometimes. And this is a very emotional process, whether you're buying your first house or your second house or your 10th house, or whether you're trying to build your real estate portfolio as a investor. And you have to handle that with a very delicate hand sometimes. And, there's people that come to us that it's their 5th house and they don't even know what happened to them the first 4 houses because they didn't work with us.
That's right.
And when you can create that experience, that's why you have an everlasting career. That's why we are referral based, because each person is very unique and you have to handle them, that way. And when you can have, that kind of market where you have been in so many homes and now people are going to forget what you do. You have to remind them. And when you can do it in such an organic way that you guys have, where it's just a natural thing that people are just like, yes, I'm going to sell my house and I'm going with Cooper Glass. Like, that's just what I'm going to do because you are top of mind. And that speaks highly of the caliber of business that you guys are representing.
We appreciate it. Listen, there's nothing that we take more seriously than a referral. It's the hugest honor we can get. Every time somebody calls, I still get a thrill, right? Every single time, like, wow, that it was so nice. I haven't talked to that person in several months, but they just referred me and a beautiful referral. Everybody has their own story. Everybody has their own needs, and you've got to tap into that and really care. You've really got to understand, what one house to one person is so different, right? I can do 2 showings in a day to 2 different people. And for one, I'm like, this just isn't right for you. And for the next one, I'm like, this is exactly what we've been looking for you.
It's still amazing, isn't it? When you take somebody out, you have a referral and you're taking them out and you're showing them, ready? 5, 6, 10, 12, 15 houses. Mm-hmm. Josh and Christina.
Yes.
15 houses. And they finally find the one that's meant for them. They looked at a lot of others. They put in offers. They didn't get accepted. And then all of a sudden, they find and land the one. Explain that. Tell everybody about that.
Absolutely. I think we have a saying that we've never had anybody at the closing table say, I wish I would have had that other house. In real estate, and I always say this, not in life, but in real estate, things happen for a reason.
You always end up where you're supposed to be.
You always end up where you're supposed to be. I remember before I was in real estate, putting offers in on houses and not getting them and being disappointed. And I felt it too.
Yeah, in hindsight, you go back and like, that one went to work it all for me.
That's right,
I did the right thing.
When you're sitting in that chair, it's the right one. And thank goodness, that's just how it works out.
Thank you, Lori and Dana, for not letting me buy that other house.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's true. Right? I've heard it.
Yeah.
We've heard it.
We've seen it. We've heard it. And Becky said it's a very emotional experience when you're going there. And when they don't get that house that they think they want, it's like, I want to quit. I'm not looking for houses anymore. But right now in the environment we're in, we're going to go ahead and segue into this. If you quit looking for a house right now and you decide that you want to sit on the sidelines, tell everybody what's going to happen.
Well, I think that the rates are going to go down a bit. I think that more sellers are going to hop onto the market, and I think the buyers are their buyers are there now, but they're going to come back in droves, and the competition's going to be huge, driving up the price again. I mean, listen, I get the interest rate thing, but I'm not sure it should rule your life. I think that you can't predict the market, but certainly you can predict if those rates go down, you're going to be in a bigger fight.
What do they say? Marry the house, date the rate?
Oh, yeah.
I talk about like divorcing rent for good. I mean, the truth is that the rate, and this is for everyone that's listening, the rate is a piece of the transaction. It's not the whole part of the transaction. And you can find and identify a price point that is going to be affordable for yourself. And then when opportunities to refinance come up, you can ride that, you can slide right down that hill and know that you have the house because you're locking in the price of the house, not the payment, because you can always adjust that according to what is happening in the market, and you can take advantage of that.
And we talked about this, and here's the thing that I need everybody to listen to this, okay? So rates are at 7% right now. Even if they went down to 6% overnight, okay, you're only saving $64.87 per 100,000. So do the math, right? If it's a $300,000 mortgage, you multiply 64.87 times 3, it's about $195 a month. If you decide to wait, and let's do the math at 300,000 at 5%, if houses only appreciate next year 5%, that's $15,000. So you're going to pay $315,000 for that house if you wait. And if you don't, and you take a rate at 7%, you're saving nothing. It's costing you money. So we want to save you money and say, hey, listen, if you can afford to, and Cooper Glass can find you a house, buy the house right now. And then if rates come down, we can get you the lower payment, but you'll already be in the house. You would have made $15,000 on a 5% appreciation, and you'd be in the house that you want. So that is the example here. Only $65 a month from 7 to 6%. So
On
listen,
100,000.
I don't know on 100,000. I don't know how many times you guys go to Starbucks a month, but I could save you money by not. I hate to say that,
Well,
but
What do you mean? We all got one here,
$5
yeah.
Coffee.
So can I say something about that? I say to people all of the time, listen, you want a really strong realtor. You want somebody who knows the market. You want somebody who understands the homes. You want somebody who thinks about what you need, what's best for you. But the other really important partner you want is your mortgage lender, right? I mean, because those are the person, he's going to go through the numbers with you. And that's equally as important. You can certainly fall in love with a house, but you've got to understand your numbers. And that's
Yes.
what a mortgage broker does.
Well, there's a reason why you have preferred, partners is because it helps that overall experience. It is a very, like we talked about, a very hand-holding experience. And if one piece is even out of line, the whole entire transaction could fall apart. And there's a lot of people running around right now with pieces of paper that don't mean anything because they come to us to fix them. So you got to be in alignment with the right people. And it's all about just starting that conversation.
That's right.
All right, 248-539-9797. We take all your calls here. I think we're going to go to our first break. All right, I got a new guy behind the board here. He's giving me the thumbs up. We'll do that for sure. The spring market is here. There's no doubt about that. If you wait to buy that house, probably 5 or 10% more by April. So definitely keep it on 97.1 The Ticket. We're going to give you all sorts of tips on buying and selling homes. We'll be right back.
I'll talk about listers too, selling,
That was pretty quick, pretty easy.
Yeah.
are awesome. Just jive in. Ooh. We are back. Man, I love that jam. There you go. We are brought to you by Capital Mortgage Funding. It's a hardcore mortgage real estate business show. You can call Capital Mortgage on 1-800-LOW-RATE, the best mortgage banker, powered by CMG Home Loans, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 1820.
Just rolls right off the tongue.
Which so easy, Becky. Here, live in the studio, 248-539-9797. Cooper Glass Homes. Of course, Dana Cooper, Lori Glass. You guys, we're going to dive into some real estate stuff. Dana, you got something to tell me about sellers out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's amazing. Since New Year's came and it was like, you're off. The market's strong. So anybody out there that's saying that the market's weak, worrying about things, it is strong. And now's the time to sell. Spring market's starting. And more competition is going to be coming up as people wait to get on, because I think spring market is, April, but it's now. It's January, February.
One of the small things that we thought was going to help the inventory is if the rates drop, then we would get maybe some empty nesters and the folks that would typically move out,
Right.
send them down to Florida, get them out of here, and allow someone else to purchase a house and raise their family there. They've been hesitant because they're sitting on the threes and the high twos and the 3% interest rates. If the rates do drop, maybe that'll give more incentive for those folks. Otherwise, we're looking at a really tight inventory. Do you guys feel the same way? Because we think this 2024, it's going to be gangbusters. You got to have all your ducks in a row. That a strong approval. You got to be ready to close in 30 days.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's why we talk about having a strong lender and having that partnership. You be able to call, I found something. You never know when it's going to happen, right? Like we looked with Josh and Christina, right? All those houses. And then you walk in, there it is. And of course, called you at 9:30. We need that pre-approval.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to have that kind of partner to do that. I mean, sellers, I would say, they say, should we wait till the spring? But if you look at the data, right, all the closings are happening in April, May. So it looks like that's when houses are selling. But they're contracting before then in order to close.
February,
that.
March.
Yeah,
Right
so
on.
that's the mentality of it, right? So like the truth is that spring has come early in Michigan the last 5 years, and we're in the same market that we were this time last year, where you had that little bit of like holiday-itis, and then people are starting to wake up from their long winter's nap, and they're like, oh, because the real topic is that the rates have already dropped. So when people are like, oh, I'm waiting for the rates to drop, well, they're already down 1.5% since even October. So that's the truth is. And then the moment is now, because the time for these sellers to wake up and unlock those golden handcuffs of equity, and it's going to make it a little bit more difficult for first-time home buyers, because once these step-up buyers and step-down buyers start kind of really moving and shaking with that inventory, these first-time home buyers that don't really have the assets to put down that larger down payment or even a little bit of a down payment, they're going to be outworked a little bit, because it is going to be a little bit of a mini 2020, in my opinion. We're going to pick up some refinances, but it's not going to be as much on the refinances. But for sure, if your hat has not been thrown in the ring and you want to buy, you need to do it absolutely this minute, because nothing is going to hurt you worse than when you fall in love with a house and then your credit's pulled and you find out that you have some work to do, or maybe that's not the right house or whatever. If you have to start working backwards, that's going to be the worst thing you can do in this highly, highly competitive spring market that we're going to come into.
I think it is going to be highly competitive, and I think it has to do with that inventory,
I was
right?
just going to say that lack of inventory is driving the prices up.
So things go hand in hand. You've been working with buyers for months, waiting for the right time to pull the trigger when something comes on. So we get those people, and we've been working with them. We update their approval letters. They're not pre-approval letters. They are approval letters. We have all their financial information. We're ready to go. So when you make that call and say, hey, send me the most updated approval letter you have, you can accompany it with the offer. It gets there. The whole package is presented to that seller, and you guys are off and running. But I think that one thing people have to understand, and people always want to read the tea leaves, kind of look at hidden factors or when rates are going to go down. You don't have to do that now. Jerome Powell, head of the Federal Reserve, came out, and it was also followed up on 60 Minutes last Sunday. He said this: we are not lowering rates anytime soon. They raised rates 11 times in the last 18 months. The last 4 meetings, they held them steady. So if you think, as a matter of fact, they went up a little bit last week. So anybody out there, you don't have to read the tea leaves. He said it. He said, until we see inflation where it's going to be, and they want to get down to a magic 2% inflation number, we are not lowering rates. Okay? And that's where it is right now. Now, May could be a different story, but we're sitting here in February. And if you're going to wait to buy a house till May, the people that are already out there shopping with you guys, that have their approval letters, that are ready to plug and play when it's time, they have the advantage. You guys don't, right?
If something is printed on paper or on the internet, it's expired. Okay, it's like that commercial, expired, right? Because it is ever changing every day, and that's the point that we're trying to get out to our listeners, our viewers, is if you want to be a homeowner or a step-up buyer, you have to have the conversations now because the market is ever-changing and you have to be ready to shuck and jive at any moment in time. And I have a personal story. So like I'm dealing with a first-time home buyer. She's a little bit older. She's been renting for 20-some years. And I met her. I did a home buyer seminar about a year ago, and it's been this working kind of gradual thing. And she called me just randomly last night at like 7 or maybe it was 6:30 because I was right before the show. And she said, you know what, Becky, I was just thinking, look at how far we have come in just a year. Now, mind you, she hasn't found a house yet, but she's saying
she likes you though.
But even because it's been a very like hand-holding moment with her, and she's been nervous. She's been a lifetime renter, to be honest with you. But the truth is that she's like, my job is better. I fixed my credit since I've been speaking to you. And she said, and I remember meeting you for the first time, and you said to me, don't worry, Frida. Everything is going to happen in its own divine intervention. It's going to happen in its time. Don't stress out. It's going to work out. And here we are coming into a different market. She now can bump up her price point. The interest rates have gotten better. But it's all been that conversation. And it's not my timeline. It's yours. It's not just like it's
Absolutely.
not your timeline. It's theirs. Mm-hmm. And whether it's 5 minutes or 5 months or 5 years, we are here to build an everlasting relationship to get you in that right house. So when you are sitting at that closing table, like you guys were talking about, you're happy. You know you made the right decision because we're not here to pressure anybody. We're here to help.
I'm always a bad guy in the room, so let me be a bad guy. But first, of course, we want to hear from you. 248-539-9797. Let's go there, guys. Lack of inventory means probably spending a little bit more, going over list price. That idea that you're going to spend over list price, you may have to make up the gap. You have to have some additional funds. Mm-hmm. It's so important to understand, I think the difference is we're all 20% down buyers until we need the extra money to make up the difference. So that whole educational piece is so key. And let's just say it to everyone out there. We'll do all the agents, we'll do all the loan officers a favor. Your buyers are going to be overpaying for the home that they probably want.
Well, you're talking to Cooper, Glass, and Huntington Boys.
Oh, yeah, they're definitely going to be overpaying there.
Nobody knows better. I'll be the bad
just
guy
helping
in
you
the
guys
room.
out.
I'll be the bad guy.
They're going to need some extra money, Harry?
Nobody knows better that you're going to be paying over in Huntington Boys.
Okay.
Nobody knows better. Just saying. Sorry, guys.
So, appraisal spread. Yep.
Yeah, right.
There you go.
I mean, I say to buyers all the time, right, that I haven't written an offer in a long time that didn't have a promise to cover the gap, right, or cover a large portion of the gap.
Yeah.
So,
what we're talking about is the appraisal gap between what somebody bought or entered into an agreement between buyer and seller, and they agree to pay a certain price. But then we as the lender come in, hire the appraiser, and the appraiser comes in, and the appraiser appraises the house at the value of the market value, not the purchase price. So it might come in a little bit under. You've got to cover that as a buyer. That's the spread that they're talking about. You've got to come in with that additional money. Now, let me say this to everybody out there. When you go ahead and you buy over the market, it's because you want that house. Sometimes you have to pay over for the area you want to be in. And especially if you've done your research, you've looked at 6, 7, 10, 12 homes, you find the house and you have to pay 20, 30 over. Listen, I'm an advocate of having people get what they want that they can afford comfortably. And if that's the place you want to be, buy it.
Go for it. Dana,
there's no deal.
Like
You're not getting it for
let me throw this at Dana first, too.
Is improving a house even.
Well, that's just it. Dana, like you go to that house, but it's got the finished basement. So all of a sudden, you don't have to spend, and especially now, getting the labor out there, the materials. It costs a lot to finish a basement.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's worth it. You look at it, and if you're educated, again, if it's just your first house you're looking at, you're not prepared to overpay. You're not prepared. You don't have the knowledge behind you. So again, getting this team together, Dana, I'll overpay for a finished basement.
No, absolutely. Or sometimes, woodward court or an attached garage or two, right? That's something that's
a larger lot.
Yeah. Larger lot. Mm-hmm. So absolutely, there's value in different items for different people, and that you can make it part of your mortgage.
There's that intrinsic value.
Yeah. So like, for example, I put in a pool. I would doing it like having went through that. I would overpay for a pool that's already installed and done than ever have to go through that experience ever again.
I'm coming swimming this year, Becky.
I mean, it's beautiful when it's done, but man, I will never do that again.
All right, guys, we're up against our second break here. Keep it on 97.1 The Tick, and we come back. All your calls, 248-539-9797. We'll be right back.
I was going to...
I just had to throw that out there.
Alrighty, we are back live in the studio. We love the Hardcore Mortgage, Real Estate, and Business Show in our 24th year, bringing all sorts of great information. If you're looking to buy or sell a house, definitely this would be a good show to listen to. Got some great real estate agents in here today. Of course, Dana and Lori from Cooper Glass Homes. Always a pleasure to have you guys. 248-539-9797. I'm Harvey Freed, Harry Glanz, and the wonderful Becky Alley's here to give you some mortgage advice. And we'll definitely take your calls. So there's a big game tomorrow, and we always want to wish everyone a enjoyable weekend. Be careful out there. Don't do that drinking and driving thing. That's our first public announcement. And the second one is the scammers are back out there. Again, guys, be very, very careful. Again, whether you're buying a house, stop clicking buttons on your computer. We're finding out that's the number one mistake. It's really a number one mistake because we talk about experience. And when you're clicking buttons here on your computer and you're trying to buy a house, you're giving away your name, your number. You don't know who's on the other end. I'll tell you, I find mortgage people doing home buyer classes, they've got more NMLS numbers than Pi. Pi, the 3.14. It's like, yeah, like if your NMLS number is longer than Pi, maybe you should at least get 1 or 2 years behind your belt before you start giving out advice. A lot of families who are buying now, they don't even understand this concept of maybe refinancing down the road. So urging families, get in there and buy your house now. Dana, definitely, if you could get out there now, the weather's been a little nicer. Let's just talk about some of the most recent, even the most recent buyer you had. Talk about that experience and some of this stuff. You're like, which one? But give us a little bit about, the process, what went down, how many houses did they see even before they were able to get one accepted?
Yeah, so I think that with the limited inventory, as we're talking about, right, it's you never know, actually. Sometimes I've gone into a house and it's the first house that they've ever seen and it's the perfect house. It's rare. Doesn't usually happen a lot, but, it can. Typically, it's going to take a while. And you got to, I say, pull on your big boy pants because, you're going to have some heartache and some ups and downs. But Lori and I do know how to price you right, or not price you right, but come in with the strongest offer, right? And have all the tools of the trade that, make your offers look better and whatnot. But things are going over. And, and with the lack of inventory, you just, you need to be prepared and patient. And we try to keep people, in their lane too, because we'll have a lot of times buyers that, they don't know what they want, right? Especially first-time home buyers or people moving back. And they're like, well, I might be in Rochester or I might be in Clarkston or maybe I'll be in Huntington Woods. And those are all such different markets, right? So it's really kind of trying to listen to what your buyers really want and bring them back into their lane. Yeah. Because it can get frustrating with the lack of inventory in certain cities that they may want, that they're like, well, I'll expand, which is great. But you got to remember what they really want.
Yeah, I was on a podcast yesterday, and one of the topics that we talked about was listening in between the words, right? Letting someone talk to you, but then also hearing what they're really saying to you. Like when they're saying, oh, I want to be here and there and everything else, there's a separate conversation that you're picking up on. And because they're saying their wants in there, and you're like, well, that actually everything you're describing is Rochester. So let's really focus on that, right? So it's like you're hearing, and when you're on that level of professionalism, you can hear those things. And I wanted to ask you something. So there's always that hesitation with, like you said, you walk in, it's the very first house they see, and they're like, this is it. But there's that hesitation on that first house. How do you overcome that objection when they're like, well, it can't be the first house. I've only seen one house.
Right.
Like, how could this be the only one? What if there's something better? How do you guys overcome that?
I don't even know if it's having to overcome it. I think it's just, again, like, being in tune to this checks all the boxes. Why don't we just go for it, right? Yeah. And if it's meant to be, it's going to be. It's going back to that,
divine intervention.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't you find that you're taking people out, they're looking at houses, and like Becky said, you're listening to what they're saying, but they really mean something else. So you're walking in, they're looking at it, might check 8 out of the 10 boxes, but maybe 8. And it's really not right for them, but they think it is. But you have to tell them, hey, listen, let's chill out a little bit here and let's go look at, I've got 2 other houses I want you to take a look at. And then at the end of the day, let's collect our thoughts, take some notes, and then sit down, and then we'll go over every little option and everything. Isn't that what you guys do?
Yeah, it's kind of like like HGTV and House Hunters, right? They
There's 3
they
houses.
look at 3 houses, right?
And their budget is like $1 million, and they make seashells for a living too sometimes.
Right. And Lori has who says, I've talked more people out of buying a house than, right? Lori's
good
done
one,
that.
Lori.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, some of our teams here, and we appreciate it so much, and them being here with us today. So, but our listing coordinators here, and I grabbed
Shout
her.
out Alice Miller.
Shout out Alice, and
She's in the studio, everybody.
Hey, Alex, there she is.
So she called us, I don't know, about 3 years ago, and said, "Hey, I want to sell my house in Farmington Hills, and I've been, researching, and we want you guys, right?" And so we helped her do that. But then, of course, we came to buying, and she was at this house in Royal Oak, and she contracted on it. I sort of let her get through that, and we were at inspection, and she says, "You crossed your arms the whole time." And I was just like, "This is not the house." I just knew it wasn't the house for her. It wasn't the neighborhood. It wasn't what she was used to. I didn't think she was going to settle in, and I barely knew her. But I said the basement just seemed moist. She said, "You just crossed your arms the whole time." And finally, I'm like, "Let's go take a look at this house, in Ferndale or whatever." She lives there now, right? And and now she works on our team.
But
so
you have to have
I think we
those-
did good there.
Yeah, sometimes you have to have those tough conversations.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day, everybody wanted these adjustable rate mortgages, and I will tell you to this day, I don't do adjustable rate mortgages. It has to be a 1 in 500 shot before I do one, because typically they're not right for most people. Now, if somebody's adamant, they want to beat me over the head with a bat, and they say I want it, I'm still going to argue with them, but I have to point them in the right direction like I would for anybody else and say, "Hey, look, here are the reasons why I think you're making a bad move, but it's your decision." Now, sometimes, you know what? They'll leave. They'll leave me. They'll fire me and go somewhere else, and then they'll always call back and say, "Should have listened to you."
There's power in the word no. And there's, it's people are afraid of saying no because we're in sales. You think you always want the yes, 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 yes. You want to be yes, ma'am. But there, you can also get a false yes, right? Someone just might tell you yes because they want you to get out of their face, right? And so when you can be, stern in your, you hired me for a reason.
Conviction.
It's education.
Yeah,
and it's education.
Yeah,
and
when
it's
you can
and
say
right.
no, like I actually don't think this one, and then and there it goes, right? Now you're still living in that house. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think we always say we're not yes men, right? I mean, we tell you like it is, we think what it's worth, but it depends on what it's worth to you for a buyer. Or
That's so true. That's a good point.
Right? Yeah. It's always what it's worth to you. How because everyone has their own story, right? I mean, how quickly do you need to move? Are you just, dipping your feet in? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that house is worth a different price to different people. And I mean, on the sell side too, right? We've got to price it right. So we bring those people in and they can make their judgment, right, about what it's worth.
And there's going to be a lot in this market too right now where, it's going to be, let's just say it's $400,000 house and someone's going to come in and they're going to go 420, then someone's going to go 450, right? If someone wants to beat you, they're going to.
Absolutely. Right.
And they're confident about it too, Becky. That's the thing, because they've already got to that step. That's where we're trying to get some of the buyers. Get to that step. I know you're going to be a new buyer. And let's think about the timing. You brought it up earlier, Lori. There's no doubt about it. If you get your house on the market now, so you get an accepted offer in February, maybe close in 60 days. Now we're in April. You can do 60 days of occupancy, keep the kids in school, and all of a sudden everyone's moving out on June 15th. It's
That's
right
what we're
about
doing now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We
crazy
just had this
timeline.
conversation with the
Right,
seller.
it's spring.
Yeah.
It's not quite, but it is spring. Hey, guys, what about the silver tsunami? That's right. That's when the baby boomers are growing older. Excuse me, Harry.
Silver tsunami.
Significant
That's a new one.
number of these folks out there considered the largest generation. They might not move out of their house. And again, we don't want to be the people with the bad news, but it's, hey, the rates are going to get lower. They didn't get lower last week, folks. In fact, the rates actually got a little, someone said it, there's a little genie in the room said rates went even a little higher. It doesn't really excite the market, but this is what we're up against. The rates where they are, just enjoy them. They're great. These are historical low rates. And if they get better, they get better. But you got to really get your ducks in a row. Think about if you're considering home ownership, give us a call. We got some open lines here, 248-539-9797. So we definitely want to hear from you.
Yeah, the interest rates are, when people are like, what do you think about the interest rates? I don't think about the interest rates. I'm going to be honest with you because, like I said earlier in the show, it's such a microscopic piece of it. It affects your payment, yes, but we can curtail that price point around what your payment is going to be. And if you're paying $2,500 in rent, I can very easily reverse engineer that and find you a payment that you can afford at that rent. It's all about, but it's also that max budget because we know that it's going to be a competitive situation.
Becky, what are you paying in interest on a $2,500 a month payment? 100% interest.
Yes.
You're getting nothing for that in return, okay? And Becky can tell you all about low down payment, payment assistance, mortgage programs that we can get you into for very, very little down payment. So why would you continue to pay $2,000, $2,500, $1,500 a month rent when you can go ahead and get into a home and then immediately that house starts appreciating? It does. People will argue with me, Harry, but there was a point in time in history when everything was depreciating. No, that's, if you take a look at the history of home ownership, there might be 2 blips in the last 50 years where houses went down in value for a very short period of time.
8 times
so
since 1940.
Since 1940. That's since
4 of those times
yeah.
were 8, 9, 10, 11.
That's right.
So 2008, 9, 10, and 11.
Yeah,
Four of
yeah.
the
So
8 times.
Four of the
Gotcha.
8 times
Yeah,
was in
so
that one moment in time.
Yeah, I count that as one time because we lived that time.
Yeah.
But look what happened, that people that hung on to their houses or they bought during that time, and what happened appreciated. If you hung on to your home or you bought and you didn't give up, you've made, wealth is accumulated here in the United States, first and foremost, through home ownership. That's how people create wealth.
Well, even in 2020, right? Even when everyone was really fighting over houses and you're going 30, 40, even I've seen $100,000 over asking. Mm-hmm. So those people still kind of came out ahead because of the appreciating market, because we're in a lack of inventory. We're in an appreciating market. Real estate is the champ in the long run, no matter what.
All right, keep it here on 97.1 The Ticket. We're coming up against our third break. We have tons to share with you. 248-539-9797. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. It is the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show on this glorious Saturday. What a nice day outside. February 2nd, 2024. Holy, my brother's 50 years old today. I almost missed that.
Happy birthday, Ian.
Little
Love
Ian. Yeah, we'll give Ian a
Freed.
little shout out. All
Forever.
right. Ian Freed doesn't do
That's right.
Facebook, probably doesn't do radio. He doesn't do anything.
It's okay. A lot of high energy in here.
It's Aquarius season.
I got Becky Alley, high energy.
Yeah.
Cooper Glass.
Yeah,
Lori
these
and
guys
Dana
know.
are crazy, calling you all hours of the day and night, which we love. I do. You know I love that. Harvey Freed, you're on fire all the time. Your hair was so much on fire, it burned off.
Lori,
You got no more hair.
Thanks, Harry. Before the break, Lori, you were going to go into some good seller talk or buyer talk. I'm like, go
Well,
for
we
it.
were talking about, the appreciation,
Yeah.
right? So we've talked a lot about buyers, and, we want to make sure we're talking to sellers too. And I think right now is the time to hop on the market. And it's not just, hey, I've decided I want to list, so I'm going to list tomorrow, right? There's a process, and we help you through that process. It takes time. We want to make sure you look the best when you get on to Zillow and Realtor and all, Redfin, all of them, right? So we take our time making sure we prep that house so they're perfect for pictures. Marketing's the best. We've got to talk about price, all those things. So it takes time. So people think, oh, I'll wait till spring, but now is really the time. And you talked about, the appreciation of homes, and people are seeing that appreciation. They are experiencing it. They're enjoying it right now, right?
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah, and when you are, like when you're thinking about selling your house, right? There's a like you said, there's a process, but you have to find out your why, right? There was a problem in like 2020 we were talking about in the break where people bought just to buy, and they bought just to buy a house because the rates were so cheap, and now they're living in homes that they really don't enjoy and they don't love. And that catches up to you when you're just making a rash decision, right? It's where do you want to be and what do you love about those homes? And if you're not loving where you live, why would you handcuff yourself to a place just because you have a lower interest rate when you can get into another home that you can easily afford and it checks all those boxes? And but the good thing is that you did make a decision. You bought a house and now you have equity and now you can use that money to buy that next house. Like even if I was a first time home buyer, if I could go back and do it again, and that some of us is, like when you're around professionals, like we live vicariously through other people because we want to redo some of the things that we didn't get to do for ourselves. But I would buy that first house, a duplex, live in that other unit, rent out the other one, keep that, and then build my real estate portfolio as I'm growing. So a lot of my first time home buyers, I do advocate for them to look for that duplex if they so can afford it, because if they can hold on to that property, you're now building that real estate, and you can now have like like your next step up house. Now you have your mailbox money, and that's retirement for some people.
I'm glad you went there, Becky. Detroit has witnessed a remarkable uptick in rental interest. No doubt about that. We're very affordable. I mean, you can move anywhere in Metro Detroit, of course, the city of Detroit, and there's homes all over Southeast Michigan, really over the great state, that are very reasonable. It's an affordable state. Also, people transfer here from work. They're not really sure. Maybe they need to rent for a year or two and figure things out. As Dana, you mentioned Rochester Hills. That's a little different market than anywhere up and down Woodward, if it's, Huntington Woods or somewhere like that. So you got to learn a little bit about where you like it. But Detroit is absolutely a destination for so many great jobs with the automotive industry being here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I actually I worked with buyers last year that were moving here from out west, and they rented for the first year. We found them a house in Royal Oak that they rented, and they figured out where they wanted to be. One of them was from Michigan originally and kind of had an idea, was in the Clarkston area, but ended up we're closing next week on a home in Bloomfield Hills.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, Dana, Lori, Metropolitan Detroit has become one of the top 5 markets now for investors to come in and buy up homes because, listen, the appreciation level in the city of Detroit's gone up immensely. So there are investors all over the country looking to put their money somewhere, and they're going to buy up these homes, which, again, goes to the fact that there's going to be huge competition coming in. Not only are you competing with people, single families that want to go in and buy single family homes, you're competing with the investor community to come in and buy up these homes as well. So that's why if you're going to sit on the sidelines, which I do not advocate sitting on the sidelines in this market at all, because it can only hurt you because of why the low inventory on there. So people have to be ready. They got to jump in and they got to plug into it because you guys are ready. When you're going to sell a home, all right, it used to be they got to close. We got to close now. We got to close now. Where's the seller going? The seller wants the longest time. So if you do a 30-day close or a 21-day close, that's great. But sometimes you don't need to. It just depends on the seller. And then we want the seller to be able to go ahead and stay in that home for the longest point in time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that you have to, just like you need the right lender, you need the right realtors when you're going to list. And it's part of, I think, what Lori and I are a pinch of salt, we say. There's so much that goes into thinking about what to do to get your house ready. Lori touched about, making it look making it look the best to bring it to market to get the most interest. But there's so much more involved. If it's occupancy that you're after, it's the highest price, right? How do you get there? What do you need to do? And we know how to strategize to get the end results that we're looking for. And circling it back to the appraisal coverage and whatnot, pricing your house right is so important. And that's something that Lori and I both we got before we even joined together as partners. Pricing is so important. And you want to come in at a price that, people think is realistic. The old days of, I'm going to list it at, $500 million and, somebody's going to make me an offer and I'm going to have to negotiate. Those days are gone, right?
Dana, is it easier to build up a price too? It's easy to get multiple bids and now start studying that competition up for that house versus starting at this high plateau and then trying to get there. So maybe the strategy, I like that way going about it, is create the energy, create the excitement for the house, and boom, let's see what we get.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dana and I have been doing that since we got together, sort of before it was the thing, right? I think that was one of our strategies very early on. But I mean, listen, the data shows that 97% of people are on Zillow looking for 3 months before they buy a house, right? Okay. They're walking into open houses. They're getting a feel for the market. They're like little junior appraisers, I say. There's no fooling anyone on price, okay? There's no fooling anyone. And the minute you try to fool somebody on price, you go a little high, those buyers instinctually, I mean, we work with, 50, 100 buyers a year. Yeah. We see them. We see how they react, their faces, their comments. Even though it's a great house, they walk away if they're like, the seller was unreasonable in price. And they may not voice it, but you can see it in how they feel, how they talk about the house.
It's a great house, but not for me. It's for somebody else.
But that's an excellent point, though, because the average buyer right now, they do seek out that education, and they're not coming from a place of desperation. They're coming from a place of educated decision making, as long as they're in line with the right people, and that's
exactly
us.
That's why it's so important to have the right realtor and the right lender.
Hey guys, 2024 is almost gone. No, it's not. Just 10% of it's gone. But this music says it's the end of our show, so we gotta really thank you guys for coming on. We'll get you back on again. But we'll do some business this spring and summer.
Let's do it.
We'll sell that one house. We'll do that one mortgage on that last house in Huntington Woods.
Let's do it. We appreciate you guys for having us so much.
So much fun. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Cooper Glass Homes, always great. Lori Glass and Dana Cooper, you guys are fantastic. Becky Alley, always thanks for showing up with the headphones. Harry Glanz, you're the best. I'm Harvey Freed. You guys, there's some football game tomorrow. Hope everyone enjoys it. Be safe out there. We got Pat Caputo coming up with sports. Keep it here on 97.1 The Ticket. We'll see you next Saturday.